Alright, we're going to try this again because I used my bicycle camera for sound and then just synchronize that with the 360. I probably should get the microphone instead so I'm not as reliant. The bicycle camera. The thing about the bicycle camera is it's going to happily flash and act like it's recording even when it can't record to the SD card for some reason or another. So you have no way of knowing whether or not it's actually recording until you take the SD card out, stick it in the computer and read to see whether or not there's actually any files there. And my rear view camera behaves the same way. It'll happily flash and show that it's recording when actually it's not writing any files. So those cameras are very persnickety about the SD card that's in them. And they won't let you know whether or not they like it. You just have to trial and error. Well, I trialed and errored. Hopefully I've got the correct cards and the correct cameras. But I want to try to rely as much as possible on the 360 video. But there are some nice shots that I'll get out of my review camera. Yay, oh look at that moon. You need to get a good shot of the moon. What I noticed was, when I'm riding, I don't get a good shot of the moon. What I get is the squiggly jumpy thing, which I'll show, because it's kind of cool looking. But if I want to get a good shot of the moon, without it squiggling and jumping, like a Mexican jumping bean, I have to stand still for a little bit. So I will do that. I'll find a place to stand still. And that's going to be right over here. So here's a chance for me to get a good shot of the moon. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good moonshot. Okay. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to shoot the Riverside Promenade with the 360 is because of these nice little resting oases, these little oases of light. They really look cool when I'm riding. Now this trail does get a lot of views. And I'm not actually starting at the northernmost trailhead, but the trailhead starts right by the school. So I'm jumping onto this by next to where I live. Riding through Riverside Park, which I'll do another ride through this afternoon with the 360, so we can get some nice video of the park itself, which is really a very large park in the middle of the city. I mean, it's not Central Park in New York City, but it's pretty big. Has several soccer fields, tennis courts, basketball courts, baseball diamonds, lots of sports opportunities for kids, and a swimming pool, and an athletic center, a couple of playgrounds, and it is adjacent to a golf course. We'll be riding next to that golf course in a few minutes. I think this trail finally went in. Either late 23 or early 24, so it's really a very new trail and a very nice one. And what I found when looking at the 360 video from yesterday was, while the stabilization software works really well the daytime photography. At night, it doesn't work quite so well, and all the lights look jiggly. Which is odd, because when I was riding my bicycle, I didn't get jiggly photos, but I get jiggly photos from the tricycle. And I think that's because I have a lumpy front tire. And the reason I have a lumpy front tire is because, well, all my tires are lumpy. And it's because they've got tire liners in them. And there aren't tire liners that are really designed for these particular tires. So the tire liners that are in them are too large. And while they've cut down the one that's in the front, it's still a little too large and it makes the front tire lumpy. So we'll find out if that really helps or not. It looks like a kitty cat. Yep, that was a kitty cat. Black cat. Sitting there on the trail. The trade-off is that tire liners really do make a difference when it comes to protecting your inner tubes from things like glass. It won't necessarily protect your inner tube from a nail, but it could possibly protect your tube from something like a thumb drive. Well, I had a staple get into my tire, and it went right through the tire liner and into the tube. So, the tire liners don't protect you from everything. They still offer a good deal of protection. I use tire liners all the time in my standard bicycle, and swore by them. I've got tire liners in the Avington. The tire liners that are in the Avington, those tires are much larger than these, but it's the same tire liner. It's in both the Avington and on this. So the result is that you can see my handlebars rocking back and forth a little bit, and I can't really take my hands off the handlebars because then it'll really rattle. And that's because the tire liner in the tire. Alrighty. Now here's why this route is so much safer than the 16th, than crossing 16th Street by the White River Greenway. Now, on the bicycle video, I crossed on the White River Greenway to show that crossing, how that works. Here, I just got off the south trailhead of the Riverside Promenade, which puts me on the street. This street is 18th Street, which doesn't really see a lot of traffic. It's very much a neighborhood street. In the afternoon, school has blocked off part of the street so the parents can stop and get their kids, but I ride through it anyway because I'm on a bicycle. And the security guards seem to tolerate the fact that I'm riding a bicycle. Well, actually a three-wheel bicycle, known as a tricycle. Okay, this is Harding Street, which is a bigger street. This is why this crossing is safer than the crossing on the White River Greenway. Crossing is safer because it's regulated by a traffic light. Now in the morning, the time that I'm rolling of an early morning, that traffic light is just flashing red. So it's essentially a glorified stop sign. But that's not when this particular crossing is really dangerous. The time when this crossing is really dangerous is in the afternoon. And it's really nice having that light. There's an awful lot of traffic at this time of night. Awful lot of traffic. Well, I can't go yet. I have to wait until some of this stuff dies down. At least the until this dude gets by. There we go. Oh, that was a lot of traffic for this morning. Normally, I'll get there and I'll only see like 2 cars and then I'll be able to go. That's a lot of cars. Okay. Still Harding Street, and I'm going to turn on Waterway Boulevard. Which more or less follows the progress of first the White River and then Fall Creek. Now, I generally don't use the White River Greenway, but there is a small section of it that I ride, and I'm about to jump onto that now. In the bicycle video, I identified the exact moment that I jumped up on the trail on the White River Greenway from Waterway Boulevard. Here I'm going to actually do that. So, railroad tracks that nobody uses anymore. And here we go. Up this thing. White River Greenway. Now, White River Greenway, as I mentioned in another video, several videos, is old and a little ripply, so I have to take it really slow on the tricycle. While a bicycle, I can just power around and over the ripples, stand up on the pedals and let my thighs take the shock. That just doesn't work on a tricycle. And that's because the wheels are not in tandem. And so as it goes over these things, the entire machine is going to twist. And if you do that fast, you're kind of contributing to metal fatigue. So since I want the machine to last, when I go over these rough spots on the trail, I just have to do it slowly. There's the moon, and you're going to see the moon as a squiggly thing. A Mexican jumping moon, which is kind of funny. But I'll stop again to get a good shot of it, or I'll get a good shot of it when I stop. And I can tell it's either 5:15 or 5:30, probably 5:15, because my phone alarm is going off in my pocket, which does at 5:15 and 5:30. Pretty much every morning. It's the 5:15 alarm is my you really are late, you need to get your butt going alarm. Since I work the early shift. By choice, I like working the early shift. Puts me on the roads at times when the roads are considerably safer for bicyclists. There's a lot less traffic. And I also like riding in the dark. Because of the basket on the front of this tricycle, gets a really cool effect. Kind of an interesting light show. Alright, so this is the White River Greenway, and there's an old bridge over Fall Creek that I took on the bicycle, which kept me on the White River Greenway. Now I'm going to pass the old bridge, but I'll make a comment about it as I pass it. It may not be easy to see. I should say that I've found in general with nighttime video that my eyes see a lot better than the camera does. But this is the entrance to the old bridge across Fall Creek. And now you can see the new bridge, which is called the 16 Tech Bridge. And the reason it's called the 16 Tech Bridge is because the industrial park that I'm riding through, which isn't fully developed yet, but is in the process of being developed and already has a significant amount of bio-research companies here, is called the 16 Tech. 60 Tech Industrial Park. Again, just right on the edge of the city, because right on just the near north side. And so just as the old bridge puts me right in front of Eskenazi Hospital, the new bridge, the 60 Tech Bridge, puts me right in front of Riley's Children's Hospital. There's the Eskenazi Hospital on the right, Riley on the left. And definitely going to get some cool video out of this. It's really kind of a beautiful bridge. And I appreciate the work the city has put into making the city a beautiful place to live. Okay, I'm going to hit the wait button. There's a reason I call it the wait button. There you go, that's why. Maybe I can get a good shot of the moon at this point. If I can quit wiggling my camera around. Walk sign is on to cross 5th Street. That's so much safer than the crossing that I did the other morning on the Avonton. Alright. Here's somebody who's absolutely determined to walk on the bicycle side. See, it's got this nice gray footpath for pedestrians. And what do I normally see? I see pedestrians on the bicycle path and bicycles on the pedestrian path. And I don't know why. I think the reason I see bicycles on the pedestrian path is because they're trying to avoid the pedestrians who are on the bicycle path. Okay, here's all these nice lights that are going to look real squiggly because the camera's shaking around. The stabilization software works really well for daytime photography. For nighttime photography, not so much. This path is, I think another reason that it's going to be a little more jiggly is because of the lumpiness of the front tire on the tricycle. So I'm really seeing, even though I've got the camera mount close to the tricycle, the further you put it up in the air, the more squiggly it's going to be. But even as close as I've got it to the tricycle, I'm still really seeing that camera mount squiggle a lot. So it's just going to make a mess out of these lights, which are really quite pretty. Okay. Since I can ride around this metal thingy, I'm going to ride around this metal thingy. There we go. Again, I'm seeing an unusual amount of traffic this morning. This is University Boulevard that I'm running the light at, but there's just no traffic here, so it's all already gone. And over there are the various eateries that profit from the nearby university. The college students go over there to eat, and occasionally we purchase from them as well. Okay, now here I'm going to leave the cultural trail and I'm going to drive through a neighborhood. This is a shortcut that I take because it's actually safer. For some reason, the cultural trail causes me to cross Indiana Street twice. I have to cross it and then go about a block down and cross it again. And Indiana Street actually gets a fair amount of traffic. Whereas in this neighborhood, this time of day, and in the afternoon when I'm coming home, this place is very quiet. you'll hear that the tricycle makes a fair amount of noise. I'm not riding here at full speed because the faster I go on the trike, the more noise it makes. So I try to limit the noise as I'm going through these neighborhoods. This is very much a college neighborhood. This is right on the eastern edge of Indiana University, Purdue University, which used to be called IUPUI, and they're not anymore. Indiana University and Purdue University are still located here, but they're no longer co-located. Well, they are, but they're not. In other words, I'm not really sure about this, but it used to be that you could take some courses from IU and some courses from PU, it all counts toward the same degree, and I think that's still the case, but it's not as integrated as it had been. Which means that there's going to be some sort of paperwork. Okay, now, I've been wanting to do some photography of this little fountain here for a while, so I'm going to get over here, come up and take a look at this fountain, which is ready. Okay. Now, before I get any further, I'm going to put the camera up as high as it'll go so I can get some nice shots. Up. Now go turn my way up. And get some nice shots of this fountain here. I'm just going to run with them. And we'll take another look at that from the city. Oh, darn it. Well, let's hope that I'm getting some good audio off of the 360 now that I've got the microphone pointing for me, because my bicycle camera is dead. So I might have to put it on the charger and make it to work. Okay. Now I'm on Blackbird Street. I'm going to slip off the Blackbird Street back onto the Cultural Trail. That's my little shortcut. I want to make it a little longer so I can go around that little mountain. And now we're riding through the parking garage part of Indiana University. We got a parking garage on either side of me. And I see a big gantry over there, so they're building something. There's actually already a lot of cars moving over there. And a nice little walking bridge. Sky bridge, skywalk. And if you wonder where the name Skywalker came from, it's actually not a name that's native to Tatooine, but comes from Indiana University and refers to people who use the skywalk. There's the skywalk. So it's a rather mundane name after all. A bit of trivial doctoral for the morning. I've still got the camera stuck way up in the air now. But as I said, I've got the microphone ready for me. It's actually a microphone that I can get that I can pop in my pocket that would remotely talk to this thing, and maybe I ought to do that. I wouldn't have to rely on my bicycle camera for video or for audio. My bicycle camera is dead. noticed is this camera tends to compress the audio, so when I'm riding, you really hear the engine noise a lot, and my voice isn't quite so loud or distinct. Now you see I've got a red light, but I've actually got the white walk sign. 10 seconds to get across here. Yeah. Must be something getting ready to happen this weekend. That's why they have pre-positioned those orange barricades. Now, one of the reasons I left this camera potted up so I can get some nice video of the canal as I ride over the canal. Definitely some construction going on here. I don't know what they're building, but it kind of looks like a parking garage. Wouldn't surprise me. Okay, so this is the Indiana State Museum. The skywalk will take you from the State Museum to the National Association Athletics in NC4A. There is the canal, so you can overlook. Have a nice scenic night to look at the city from this particular angle. Then you can also see the canal lights over the canal there. Part of what makes this a beautiful morning drive. So much nicer to bicycle commute in this city than any commute I've ever had before. I used to commute back in the 20th century. I lived in Lawton, and my office was in Duncan, Oklahoma. So I commute 45 miles along Highway 7 every morning, every afternoon. About an hour. Commuting to my office and back. It wasn't bad traffic, it was just, a highway. But an hour driving a boring highway. Whereas now, what I've got is like, I'm kind of going slow this morning because of the camera and trying to get good video here. So this is more like almost a 30-minute commute, but usually it's more like 15. But it's through this, and it's gorgeous. So now I'm going to get some photography of the deer at the Ida George Museum. I did some photography the other day. Unfortunately, the yellow fountain is on. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to come up this way. Turn my light on here. You can see there's some lights down there. The deer are dark, but then in the dark, deer are dark. See that stag there? We'll get some daylight photography of this as well. Alright. That concludes my morning commute. I like to conclude it here with the deer before I get down. There's downtown right there. All I have to do is cross west. There we go. Actually, let's